Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Welcome learners, my name is Stephen Kariungi, and today we continue with our topic of discussion, and the topic is genetics. So we are discussing the disorders that arise as a result of gene mutations, and already we have discussed albinism. So today we are going to discuss another genetic disorder that arises from gene mutations, and this is sickle cell anemia. Now, sickle cell anemia is a situation whereby the red blood cells assume a sickle shape. They become sickle-shaped, hence sickle cell. And those sickle-shaped cells, they have what we call a defective hemoglobin. They contain defective hemoglobin that is unable to efficiently load and transport oxygen. Of course, we know that the function of hemoglobin in the blood is to transport oxygen. So we are saying that if the hemoglobin is defective, like in the case of sickle cell anemia, it is not efficient in terms of loading and transportation of oxygen. So you can say that sickle cell anemia, this is caused by substitution of a certain amino acid called glutamic acid by valine. So glutamic acid is an amino acid that is substituted for by another amino acid, different one, that is known as valine within the protein or the polypeptide chain. Within the polypeptide chain. So as a result, the gene responsible for defective hemoglobin, the gene responsible for defective hemoglobin, also written as HbS, that is hemoglobin type S, that is sickle cell, is formed instead of the normal hemoglobin, which is HbA. So HbA is hemoglobin type A, which is the normal one for the normal hemoglobin, for the normal oxygen transportation. But hemoglobin type S is the one that is that results in the formation of the sickle cell anemia. So sickle cell anemia is a recessive trait that only occur in homozygous state. So we are saying that hemoglobin type S is caused by a recessive gene, whereby in the absence of hemoglobin type A, then the person suffers from sickle cell anemia. So we can have HBS, and that is what brings about the sickle cell anemia. And then hemoglobin type A in a homozygous state, this is responsible for normal hemoglobin. Is responsible for the normal hemoglobin. Then we have another condition that is in a heterozygous state where we have hemoglobin type A and hemoglobin type S. We call it HbA, HbS, that is the heterozygous state. And this one we call it sickle cell trait. So just to have an overview of those three situations, the sickle cell anemia is whereby all the red blood cells assume a sickle shape, and therefore they carry defective hemoglobin. And the normal hemoglobin is whereby the red blood cells have the normal shape, that is the normal biconcave disc shape. Then sickle cell trait, this is a condition that is in between the normal and the sickle cell, whereby less than half, it's just less than a half of the red blood cells that are defective or that are sickle shaped. So in other words, we can say that sickle cell anemia or sickle cell trait is a case of incomplete dominance, whereby the normal hemoglobin is not dominating, the sickle cell anemia is not dominating, but instead you get an intermediate. You get a trait that is in between them. It's not exactly 100% normal, and it's not exactly sickle cell anemia, but we refer to it as the sickle cell trait. So we can have this as the normal red blood cell. That's how the normal red blood cell looks like. And this normal red blood cell is the one that happens to carry the normal hemoglobin. Then we have the sickle cell, whereby the red blood cell assume a shape that is sickle. So this is a sickle-shaped red blood cell. And we are saying that sickle-shaped red blood cell is unable to load and transport oxygen. Also, it has a challenge of squeezing through the blood capillaries, causing blockage. So it causes the blockage of the blood capillaries because the blood cells do not flow smoothly, as the case in a normal red blood cell. So we're going to have a comparison between the normal hemoglobin and the defective hemoglobin. Is what we are calling HbS, hemoglobin type sickle cell. And then HbA, this is the normal hemoglobin. So a comparison of the two, we are saying that in the case of the normal hemoglobin, a position in the polypeptide chain is occupied by glutamic acid. A position in the polypeptide or the protein chain is occupied by an amino acid, glutamic acid. Glutamic acid is an amino acid. But in the case of a defective hemoglobin, the same position in the polypeptide chain is occupied by valine. So the valine substitutes the glutamic acid. That's why you're saying that sickle cell anemia occurs as a result of substitution of glutamic acid by valine. Occupied by valine. And then the normal hemoglobin is efficient in loading and transporting oxygen. Is efficient in loading and transporting oxygen, and the HbS is inefficient in loading and transporting oxygen. Number 3, we are saying normal hemoglobin does not crystallize in low oxygen concentration. But the one that is defective, this one crystallizes in low oxygen concentration. And lastly, number 4, which we have explained in the diagram there, that the normal hemoglobin has the red blood cells are biconcave or disc shaped. But in the case of the defective hemoglobin, the red blood cells are sickle shaped. The red blood cells are sickle shaped. So basically that is what happens as far as the sickle cell anemia. We are saying that sickle cell anemia is a case of incomplete dominance. In fact, it's good also to mention that. Say that sickle cell anemia is a case of incomplete dominance, where in the heterozygous state a person gets sickle cell trait, which is an intermediate between the anemia, sickle cell anemia, and the normal hemoglobin. A person gets sickle cell trait. So people with sickle cell trait, they have an advantage with sickle cell trait, have the advantage of being less prone to malaria attack they are less prone to malaria attack. And these people lead normal lives with very mild oxygen shortage. They have very mild oxygen shortage because we have said that it's only less than a half of the red blood cells that are sickle shaped. Otherwise, majority of them, more than 50% of the red blood cells are okay. So we say that they have a sickle cell trait, and they have an advantage of being less prone to attack by malaria. So that being the case about the sickle cell anemia, we are going to have some questions. So in the assignment, explain how sickle cell anemia occurs. Number 2, state 4 differences between normal hemoglobin and defective hemoglobin. We'll continue from there next time. Goodbye.